Hey guys, Backyard Farmer Pat here. Guys, today is a very important, but I'm hoping for you it's a very exciting episode. Today I am sitting right here and I call this my little vitamin and medicine cabinet for my plants. We're going to be talking today about how I keep my plants healthy. We're going to be talking about 3 ways that I use to fertilize my garden. Also, I'm going to be talking in detail about how I treat aphids, mealybugs, fungus, powdery mildew, and a host of things. And I'm using probably 90% things that you have in your cabinet. So guys, and everything I'm using today is Omni certified. It's certified organic, so you don't have to worry about putting bad things into your body or into your plants. Healthy plants, abundant plants, fruitful plants all begins with healthy soil. But at times, hey, at times we do have disease, we do have insects, we do have ants, those horrible ants. So I'm gonna show you today how I keep my soil healthy, but also how I treat the pests once they do come and the disease. So guys, let's get started. Today I'm gonna talk in detail about several items. Let's start with how I keep my soil healthy or how I fertilize my soil. Then we'll go into all the different homemade remedies I have for different things. So one thing you can do, first something very basic you can do to keep your soil healthy and to build up your soil and add nutrients to your soil is create, I wouldn't call it a compost tea because compost tea is aerobic, but this is basically a wheat tea. So in here, I have several different weeds. And guys, this is going to be stink. Woo! Woo! Guys, look at this. I've had this going for probably a good, probably 2 years. Let's just press down so we can see what it looks like. You can see how dark this liquid is. So in this wheat tea, this specific wheat tea that I have, you can use any weeds you have in the garden. Oh, jeez, hold on, let me close this back. What I'm using specifically in this wheat tea is I'm using comfrey, and let me show you what that looks like. The reason why the comfrey plant is so important is it's very high in NPK. What it does is comfrey has a very long taproot. The taproot goes down, I would say like 2-3 feet down into the ground. It pulls up all the nutrients, all the minerals, and all those minerals and nutrients come into the leaves. So when you break up these leaves and add them to your compost tea, that makes the compost tea very rich in nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium. And just real quick lesson on what NPK means. When you buy anything in the garden store, you'll see the NPK ratio on it. Number one, always just get the ones that say organic. But to explain, the N is the nitrogen. So that helps the leafy greens. So like the greenness, it helps like leafy greens, your lettuce, your cabbage, all your spinach, all those leafy greens. However, you also use it, I use it on my regular plants too. Because think about it, when a plant is very young, a seedling is young and it's just growing, you want it to develop a lot of leaves initially. So it also helps with that. The P in NPK is for phosphorus. Phosphorus is for root development. It's for flowering, blossoms. Of course, the more flowers and blossoms you have is the more fruit you have. So that's phosphorus. Potassium, I would say that's for the overall health of the plant. It helps with the nutrient uptake. It helps with pest resistance, the overall health of the plant. So all NPK, all 3 are very important. So comfrey is high in NPK, and so is Mexican sunflower. Another reason why I like to have my comfrey close to different trees is because they exchange sugars. So when you have trees planted close to each other, they exchange sugars through the microbes. The trees release, I'm trying not to get too nerdy, but just real quick, the trees release sugars to the microbes, feed all the microbes convert everything back into nitrogen and the different nutrients that the plant needs. So it's good to have them close together so that they feed each other. This is my Bombay Julie mango, and as you can see on the top, this is loaded with mangoes, and this is like a 4-year-old seedling, guys. 4-year-old seedling. You can see it's way up in the air. Let's look at the Mexican sunflower. That's my second ingredient. This is my Mexican sunflower plant. I have it right beside my Barbados cherry, and it's right up against my Boro bananas. But Mexican sunflower, pound for pound, it's as powerful in the garden as using chicken manure. It's also high in NPK. So that, of course, is needed for the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potassium, which is what NPK stands for. All those are needed for every plant that you have in the garden. So this is the second ingredient. And Mexican sunflower is also used as chop and drop. A lot of people you can just break it up like this and drop it by the roots that you need. This is my Barbados cherry. I'll just drop it right there. My entire garden is also full of Spanish needle or Baden's alba. These are edible. These are also powerful medicinal. These you can actually cook them down. Some people add the tender leaves to salads. But this is a weed that is all over Florida, all over my garden. It's like everywhere. So I also add this to the compost tea. This compost tea has been going for several months. Normally, how I dilute my compost tea is I do 1 part for every week. So if it's fermented for 1 week, I do 1 part water, 1 part tea. 2 weeks, 2 parts water, 1 part tea, and so on. This might be 20 weeks, guys. Literally, I could just use, half a cup probably or less to a gallon of water. Anyway, I'm only using this on the roots of my plants. It's very simple. You just take a little bit here, put it in a 1 gallon jug, fill it up with water, and what I use this for is I can use it for all my plants. I never ever put it directly on food that I'm gonna eat. So if I'm gonna eat a cabbage, I'm not gonna spray this on the cabbage leaves. I'm gonna put it on the roots or around the soil. So it builds the soil up, it feeds the microbes, it breaks down everything. So that's how I use my compost tea. Fill this 1 gallon jug up with water and I water. I do not use this on my leaves. I also use it, say I plant some seedlings, they look like they're struggling, they're a little bit yellow. I put it on the seedlings. And let me show you an example. If you guys remember a couple weeks ago, I transplanted my pepper seedlings and they're all very yellow. So guys, look at this. This is the same pepper seedling right there, and you can see how the leaves have greened up. This is one little one that I didn't think was gonna make it, but it looks like it's gonna make it. So my pepper seedlings, look at that one. Pepper seedlings greened up, and that's what I use on these. I use that compost tea. Another thing I use in my garden is banana leaf tea. And these are gonna look kind of gross because these have been sitting for like forever. This one has literally been sitting since last year. I'm definitely falling behind on watering. I just use my empty coffee jugs and I add banana leaves to it, especially when I harvest a bunch of bananas, and I fill them up with the banana leaves, put water on top of it. If you have rainwater, fine. Everybody doesn't have rainwater. You can just use regular water. When you think about it, you do water your yard with the hose, that's regular water. So just use what you have, guys. Fill it up with banana peels, cover it with water, and you can use this, dilute it to water. And I have several jugs. I found these also on the patio. My goodness, you can see it's at different stages. That one is just beginning to break down. And it was too tight, so there was no oxygen coming in to break it down. But then you can see that one is dark, and this one here, I didn't have enough water, but you can see it's jet black. But all these are still usable. I'm gonna be fertilizing with water, and for these peels, you can literally just bury the peels around your tomato plants or whatever plants you want. One thing, a lot of people use this, and this is excellent, actually excellent if you wanna, say you have tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers that you want to fruit. This is really good. I don't use it until the plant is mature enough to fruit. So let me give you an example. These same pepper plants, you can see they're still very, very small. I wouldn't use banana tea. I don't think it will hurt it, but I'm not trying to encourage fruit in here. However, these pepper plants here, even though they're very small, they're small because I chopped them back, and you can see they have peppers on them. These were like 5 6 feet tall. I just chopped them back down to the ground so that they can resprout. So these I want to encourage new blossoms, and you can see, look at that, has loads of blossoms coming out. I just cut this back 2 weeks ago. However, I am gonna give these a drink of the banana tea, so that will encourage these mature plants. They look small, but they're mature. I'm gonna encourage these to blossom more. Also, my tomatoes are completely loaded with tomatoes right now, guys. I cannot keep up. I've been picking gallons of tomatoes, gallons of tomatoes. I've given away tomatoes. I think my neighbors are kind of sick of me now. Um, I could water them with a banana tea. And I could water them if I have any leftover. But guys, I have too many tomatoes already, so I probably wouldn't water it. But this again is perfect for your mature tomato plants. Say tomato plants start slowing down. What I do is hit it with some banana tea and some liquid seaweed and aspirin if it looks like this. Anyway, let me show you what else. Let me show you, tell you the ratio. So I am not very strict. I just take like half a cup of this, the banana tea. I add it to my 1 gallon jug of water and I water my plants. So let me show you what else I use my banana tea for, or how else I use my bananas. And this is a slightly different way. So let me get something to stir it. Get something to stir it. So this is slightly different. This has banana peel. It even has some rotted banana in there from that last harvest that I did where I had a ton of ripe bananas. But as you can see, guys, I also have pineapple peel in there. What pineapple peel does, pineapple acts like an acidifier for the soil. Pineapples are acidic. So I use this fertilizer same exact way, ferment it, and then I add some to some water, and I fertilize my acid loving plants. Look at it bubbling. Oh my gosh, it's actually bubbling. Yeah, which is good. It's good, guys. So I use this on my acid loving plants. My pineapples, my blueberries. I have what's that grape tree called? Anything that's acid loving, guys, you can add this to it. Use it the same way as you use it for your banana tea or the compost tea. Always fertilize only the soil. I don't wanna eat any blueberries that has been soaking in that. So fertilize the soil. Another thing I use in my garden is eggshells. Eggshells are high in calcium. Calcium is very beneficial for blossom end rot. What I've done with my eggshells is I dry them completely on a low, well, there's a video out there that tells you details, but basically you dry it on a very low grade oven. Dry it at like a 250 oven until it's completely dry. You blend it out, and then you can use this in two ways. You can either just sprinkle it and incorporate it in the soil, particularly around peppers, tomatoes, anything that will get blossom end rot. The calcium in the eggshells prevents the blossom end rot. However, if your plants are already flowering, like you see my pepper that's already flowering, what you can also do is use like a tablespoon of this in some vinegar, have it fermenting for like a few weeks, put it in a spray bottle and spray all your blossoms. That will also prevent the blossom end rot. Adding it to the soil can take as much as 3 to 6 months to break down and benefit the plant. But if you want to prevent blossom end rot right away, like if your plants are already blossoming, use that other formula that I just mentioned. I do have a video explaining, showing you step by step how to do that. All right, so that's another free thing here. And this is kind of wet and nasty now, but this is actually my coffee grounds. And normally I don't make it wet, but this kind of fell off, so it's wet. How not to use it? I know it's okay to go to your coffee shop and get them to give you free coffee grounds. Do not use it all at once. That's gonna mess your plants up. It's gonna burn your plants up. So how I use it in my garden is I just lightly spread it. I lightly incorporate it. Just like how I use everything, guys. My eggshells, anything I use, my earthworm castings, I just use it to build up the soil, to benefit the soil. Earthworms actually love coffee grounds. It makes them more vigorous. It makes them come to the area. So it encourages earthworms. I literally use this by just taking handfuls of it and just spreading it across the top of the soil. So I don't use it very heavily. I have to figure out what to do with it now that it's all wet, because normally I use it when it's dry. All right, so that's it for my vitamins. That's all my vitamins and minerals for the soil. So now let's talk about preventative, how I prevent certain diseases. Oh, and before I move on to that, let me show you two things that I actually buy, which actually you can also use, especially when I use it sometimes with this. So my fish fertilizer, that's one thing that I'm never without. It works out really cheap, guys. This big bottle on Amazon costs like $29, and it's just an Alaskan fish fertilizer. That's probably the cheapest one that's out there. NPK is 511, so it's higher in nitrogen than phosphorus and potassium. However, it's really a great boost for the plants. You can use this like every week, every other week if you want throughout the year. I don't use anything that much because I just don't have that time, but it's very mild, but it's very, very good for the plants, for boosting up the plants. Sometimes when I use that compost tea that I mentioned, or the wheat tea that I mentioned, I add like a tablespoon of this just to give it a little boost. Not necessary, but it's good to have it in here. Another thing that I use is my sea kelp, my organic sea kelp, or liquid seaweed, whatever it's called. You can call it liquid seaweed, liquid kelp. You can see my label is totally worn out. But what I use is my liquid seaweed with a couple aspirins, and I grind it out, put it in a spray bottle, and I use that to spray my leaves of my plants, and that builds up the plants. I usually do that in the larger spray bottle so I can spray all my trees. That's just something. What aspirin does is it builds up the immunity of the plant, right? So if the plant has a strong immunity, the insects and the pests are not going to find them. So the key is keeping your plants as healthy as possible, so the pests that would normally find the sick plants won't find them, right? The job of these insects and pests, guys, is to take out the sick plants. That's why 1 minute your plant is healthy, then it has a little disease. If you don't handle it, a week or two later it's gone, because the insects find it and take it out. So keep your plants healthy to keep the insects away. All right, so let's talk about some of these things. And I just recently started using these spray bottles. I find it is so easy to use these for small issues, I find, versus walking around with these sprayers. So first thing everybody knows about is neem oil. So when you mix your neem oil, first of all, the neem oil, the only neem oil I use is cold compressed. It doesn't matter what the brand is. It just happens to be what I'm using now, which has been working fine for me. But it makes sure your neem oil says cold pressed neem oil, right? You want to get the pure neem oil, the concentrate. If you get the spray bottle one, the mixed one is fine, but this is what I use. I'm not showing you what I use. You see, it says cold compressed neem oil. Hold on. So I like these bottles. I just discovered these bottles. These are bottles I got at Walmart, like $1 something each. But they have little markings to show you the different ounces and the milliliters. So this is a 24 ounce jar. For 24 ounce, and I write it on here, for 24 ounces, I put half a teaspoon of Castile. Castile is just a pure soap. It doesn't have any chemicals. This is actually the soap I used to bathe with. I use Castile peppermint soap. So, guys, this is like pure, nothing bad in it. And then I use 1 teaspoon of neem oil for this. Whenever you buy any of these products, guys, read the label of what you're using, and make sure this is just based on the brand I'm using, but yours might have a different concentrate. So follow whatever the label says. So for neem oil, and what I did was, for neem oil, this works really good on aphids, white flies. It also helps with fungus. Look at here. Here is where it says it here. You can use it on most of your plants. And compressed neem oil helps with chewing and sucking insects. So those aphids, those white flies, even the mealybugs, but mealybugs, neem oil won't really penetrate. And I have another solution I'm going to show you. It kills the eggs, the larvae, and the adult insects. So that's great. And it's also, it doesn't say it here, but neem oil also helps with fungus. It does help with fungus. But I have other things that I use for fungus, but that's the neem oil. That's what I use that for. Then here, another thing that you all have in your medicine cabinet is hydrogen peroxide, 3%, and mix that with water, right? I just put 1.5 tablespoons of hydrogen peroxide in water. So there are different things hydrogen peroxide does. Of course, it kills mold, it kills powdery mildew. You can spray it on your vegetable plants. When you spray it on, it like literally evaporates. It kills the fungus, but it evaporates immediately. So you don't have to worry about it being on your plant the next day. It evaporates very quickly. Also, not in a spray bottle, but if you can, I also mix my hydrogen peroxide with water and I put that in my jug at times. Say it's the rainy season and your plants or your pots are getting really waterlogged and you don't want to get root rot. Hydrogen peroxide and water, you can mix that together. And hydrogen peroxide is, remember, it's 2 part hydrogen, 2 parts oxygen. So that actually breaks up the soil, and it also brings oxygen into the soil. So it helps to prevent root rot. So this really helps. What else do I have? Okay, so you guys saw my video the other day when I was I did like a 2 week or 3 week trying different things to kill the mealybugs on my guava tree. And finally, the final thing that worked was 2 parts rubbing alcohol to 1 part water. Of course, guys, with everything I'm showing you, make sure that you test it on a smaller area or test it at a lower ratio before you jump to this. This is what worked on my trees. So, depending on how much you want, just follow the markings on here. And for every part water, put 2 parts rubbing alcohol. I also put a teaspoon of neem oil. What neem oil does, I just explained what it does, but what I didn't say is that it suffocates the insects. That's how it kills the insects. So rubbing alcohol will penetrate the mealybug, and then the neem oil suffocates the insect. And then I also add a few drops of the Castile soap because it helps the water and the oil mix together. Water and oil doesn't mix. So if you want it to mix together and hold on to the plants or hold on to the insects, be sure to add your Castile soap, whether you're doing it with the rubbing alcohol and water or you're doing it with the neem oil. Next, we have my sulfur water. And let me show you what this looks like. I bought this wettable sulfur on Amazon. And so what sulfur does a few things. Sulfur can actually acidify your soil. So be careful, don't use too much sulfur in your soil, especially unless it's an acid-loving soil. So I actually sprinkled my sulfur when I was planting potatoes. It also prevents potato scab, so I sprinkled it in the potato bed. But I sprinkle it around my jabuticaba, which is what I was trying to remember earlier. That's an acid-loving plant. You can sprinkle this around your pineapples, blueberries, anything acid-loving. But how I'm using it here, sulfur is an excellent fungicide. So while the hydrogen peroxide and water works, sulfur also works really well. I put 1 tablespoon sulfur for this little 24 ounce of water. Sulfur kills the fungus and it kills mites. So fungus, powdery mildew, it helps a lot with that. And as I said, it's a soil acidifier. Say you see like some kind of fungus coming up on your tomato plants, you can jump in with either your hydrogen peroxide and water or your sulfur and water. Right now I have like some little mites on my avocado tree. I can actually put this sulfur and water in one of those big jugs because my avocado tree is too big for this now, and spray the trees. As a matter of fact, guys, give me a suggestion. I need to get a hose and sprayer or something for my trees because as you can see, guys, my trees are getting so big right now. So, anyway, that's what we use the sulfur for. Be careful if it's a plant that doesn't like acidic soil. Just use it with caution. But the way I'm using it like this won't affect anything. All right, so another thing I want to talk about, a lot of you have issues with ants. So this is diatomaceous earth, and it's another Omni certified. It's actually made from the ground of freshwater diatomaceous earth. And let me show you what it looks like. It's a very light powder. It's almost like a talcum powder. But to us, it looks like talcum powder. To ants, and mealybugs and aphids and whiteflies and every single soft-bodied insect except earthworms. It doesn't affect earthworms. This is like razors. So when ants crawl across diatomaceous earth, or when you sprinkle it on mealybugs or anything like that, it literally cuts into the exoskeleton. It cuts into the surface of the insect, and it literally dries them out. So you don't see them dying right away, but after a while you won't see it. They'll all be gone. And I have a couple of big ant mounds that I sprinkled this on, and I sprinkled it on heavily and left it, and it killed everything. Diatomaceous earth, you can also use it in the chicken coop. I sprinkle it around the chicken coop. If I say I have flies in the chicken coop area, I sprinkle this, I come back in the evening and it's gone. Same thing. Diatomaceous earth, you can also put it in the chicken feed. It's really good, very healthy. It's, as you can see, I've used it, food grade diatomaceous earth. All right. Oh, let me show you how we can use diatomaceous earth. I have it in this brand. It's called Harris diatomaceous earth. This came with this little thing. It's like a easy way to spread it. So let me show you. Let's go spread some on my guava tree. And I'll brag on my guava tree at the same time. All right, guys. I have to show you my guava tree that was struggling about a month ago, and now every inch is loaded with guavas and blossoms. So this had heavy mealybugs on it, but I took care of those suckers. But I see that there are some that are trying to come back. So here's a way you can use the diatomaceous earth. Two ways. You can go to the base, because a lot of times with mealybugs, aphids, those things are being mined by ants. The ants dig into the soil, get these things, and then they bring them up to the plant, to where the tips are, where the blossoms are, and the tender leaves. And then those insects, they suck into the leaf, and then their poop is like a honeydew. It's like a sweet poop, which the ants like. So you see these, they suck into the leaf, and they produce this, you see the blackness on it? That's called sooty mold that it produces. And then sooty mold is a fungus also, but then also the honeydew that they produce is what the ants like. That's why the ants dig them up and bring them up to the tips, so they can suck the life out of my plants, suck the life out of these blossoms, killing the blossoms. So what you can do is two things. You can sprinkle the diatomaceous earth all around, or you can, or well, I do both. You can go to the actual plants and just, oops, it's kind of hard to do it with one hand, but you can't see it. But when you press down, it's actually spraying the powder out. You see that? Yeah, so you can do that, and then that would actually, if the ants crawl across the flowers, it's gonna kill them. So I'm gonna do this for my Barbados cherry, because right now we had a little rain for 2 days, guys, and my tree is loaded with blossoms, but that has the most problems with the ants and the mealybugs. All right, so I think that's it. It's a long video, but I hope you guys learned something new. Drop a comment below, let me know what you learned. I'm gonna be going in and watering my plants. So when you see my trees being abundant with fruit, guys, this is why. It's not a lot of money that I spend, but it's all organic, but this feeds the soil, builds up the soil. I'm gonna do a separate video about the importance of the number one thing that I put in my garden. That is not one of these things. The number one thing I do in my garden that helps my garden. Anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Till next time. Bye now. Did I mention that for the banana tea, you don't have to use it on just fruits, just like my tomatoes and cucumbers. I'm gonna actually use this on my fruit trees. I have way more than enough. As I said, I haven't done it in months. I noticed, well, my Barbados cherry is blossoming now, but my long gone has not started blossoming, and my East Indian mango is starting to blossom again, but I want a lot of blossoms. A lot of blossoms means a lot of fruits. So I'm gonna also use these on my fruit trees, not just on like the tomatoes and cucumbers. Yes, those are fruits too, but I'm gonna use it on my woody fruit trees also. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Please let me know if you learned something new today, and if there's something else you use in your garden that I didn't cover here. The two other things that I use a lot in my garden that I didn't mention today are my earthworm castings and my mushroom compost. But that's more when I'm first creating the beds and building the beds. This is just stuff I use to maintain throughout the year. That's why I did not mention those. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like and let me know. Drop a comment below, guys. I'd love to hear. If you learned something new, please share it. That really encourages me. Till next time. Bye now.